In this slide, we will see different type of study designs. So let's assume today is, we are in February 2023, and we want to conduct study. So if we're going to do a study today, and we're going to look for the exposure and the outcome at the same time, this is an example for cross-sectional study, because the exposure and the outcome are at the same time. However, if we're going to start today, and then we're going to follow the cases, in the future, we have two options. Either we're going to do a clinical trials, it could be randomized controlled clinical trials, or we're going to do a cohort study. The difference between cohort study and randomized controlled clinical trials is in randomized controlled clinical trial, there is an experiment. However, with the cohort study, there is only a follow-up. So let's see the following examples. If you're going to compare between those students who live in a high altitude and compare with those students who live in sea level, like in Jeddah city. So we're going to compare within these two groups in terms of their grades, and we're going to follow up for them up to 6 months. So this is an example for a cohort study, because we're just going to follow up with those students. We did not change the weather. The weather in the high altitude is as it is. We didn't assign this weather compared with those in the low cost weathers. So we didn't change the weather. This is an example for the cohort study. However, if you're going to do a filling, restorations, and we put this restoration by ourselves as experiment, this could be a randomized controlled clinical trials, because we assign the type of restoration for those groups, and we follow them for a period of times, for example, few months. Then we did a follow-up to compare between the two groups. If we did not place the restoration by ourselves, we just follow those cases. We brought those cases from someone else, and we follow up those cases for a while. This is an example for cohort study. So the difference between cohort and randomized controlled clinical trials is the experimental part. Okay, now this is what we call it prospective study. Now let's see the retrospective study. In retrospective study, we're going to have two types of study design, either retrospective cohort or case control study. So let's start with retrospective. Let's start with the case control study first. In the case control study, we're going to start with the outcome, and we're going to look backward to the cause of this outcome. So we're going to have a group with the outcome and compare it with a group without the outcome, and then we look backward to what is the cause of these problems. This is a case control study. While in the retrospective cohort, again, it has the same philosophy as prospective cohort. We're going to start with the cause, and then, or the exposure, and then we're going to follow up the cases to the outcome. So let's see the following examples. Let's suppose to have 100 implant failures, and we want to compare it with the 100 implant that there was no failures in those implants. So we have now the outcome, which is implant failures, 100 cases versus 100 cases no implant failures. Then we look backward 10 years ago to see if they were smoking at that time, or what could be the cause of these failures. So we started with the outcome, then we move backward to the cause, or the exposure that they have in the past. So this is an example for case control study. However, if you're going to do the opposite, we're going to see the cases who smoked 10 years ago, for example, in 2010. And we have another group who did not smoke at that time. Then we brought the cases today to see how many cases of implant failures we have in the first group and how many cases of implant failures in the second group. So we start with the cause or with the exposure in the past, 2010, and now we evaluate the cases in 2023. So this is an example for retrospective cohort. So in the case control study, we start from the outcome, we move backward to the cause or exposure. In the retrospective cohort, we start from the exposure or the cause, and we move to the outcome, which is opposite to the case control study. And in the same way, if you're going to do prospective cohort, we start from the cause and we're going to follow up the cases to the outcome. So here we can see the summary from outcome to the cause. This is case control. From the cause or exposure to the outcome, this is cohort. And if there is experimental part, this is going to be randomized controlled clinical trials. And if both exposure and outcome at the same time, this is going to be a cross-sectional study. Thank you.